Bobby Bowen Show again, a brand new show on
Woohoo!
Facebook. And man, I'm excited about our guest today. This is Kelly back, and I've known Kelly 30 plus years probably. And he goes way back to playing with my favorite group of all time, the Hinsons. And Kelly, I'm going to ask you a lot of questions today about the Hinsons to get some of that inside scoop that probably a lot of people
Oh
have never
yeah,
heard about before.
I
But
should write a book.
how you doing, Kelly?
I'm doing good, doing
Man,
great.
I
Yeah.
appreciate you coming on here and doing this. Kelly is probably one of the greatest, the best guitar players anywhere around, especially around Nashville for sure, but anywhere
hmm
around. And he's played on so many big projects over the years, and of course, played with the Hinsons. And so, Kelly, I just want to go back like I've been doing everybody else. I want to go back to the beginning, just tell everybody where you were born and what your influences were and what made you want to be a musician, a guitar player.
Oh wow, what made me want to be a guitar player? Um, it's funny. I was raised in church, and we had a little, believe it or not, Christian country band in the late '60s, early '70s, and the name of the group was Ernest Carter and the Hymn Trio. And I believe there's a bluegrass version of that actually up in Kentucky. And uh, actually, fast forward a little bit, me and Donnie Lewis were playing with a group called Loretta Carter and the Sounds of Praise. You've probably
Yep.
heard that
Oh
name.
yeah, yeah.
And we were in Blaze, Kentucky at Ernest Carter's church. And we had, you know, played there that night. And we went over to Donnie's cousins. And Donnie put on the Henson live record from Out of the West They Came. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
That was the
It's
first one
like
I heard. Yeah.
I'd never heard anything like that.
Yeah.
And that really, I was like, oh my gosh, we could, we can do this.
Yep.
And those little stingers on the end
Oh yeah.
of the song. Yeah. We started doing those. And I remember a time me and Donnie in the bus and we'd started recording ourselves. And there was one of those big endings like that. And I bet we did the Tadet Ching about 10 times. And we were like, man, we're getting close. We're getting close. So that's where all that really started as
Yeah.
far as my introduction to the Hinsons. And then me and Donnie actually winded up, we played at Memorial Hall in Dayton, Ohio.
Yeah.
And I still have the poster where we opened up the show basically for the Hinsons. And oh my gosh, I was
How nervous
so
were
in
you?
love. Oh,
Who was
wow.
play? Was did they have a guitar player then, or was it steel?
The first time they didn't have either. It was just Gary Perem, Tracy Richardson, Greg Taylor, and Kenny
Kenny on the
played
guitar. Yeah.
some guitar. They didn't have a steel player at that or an electric player. Now the next time we played with them, right there, actually, I was standing in the wings waiting for them to come on, and another big influence in my life was standing right next to me. I didn't know it, and I looked over. There's this young kid, and I'm young too. I mean, but at that point, that is. And I said, man, have you ever heard the Hinsons? And he's got a suit on and everything.
Yeah.
He's got real short hair. And I'm like, there's no way this guy could be with the Hinsons. Well, come to find out, it was Steve Dixon.
Steve
And
Dixon. Yeah.
it was his first week, I'm pretty sure,
Oh
with
wow.
the Hinsons. And he said, well, I'll play with him, and he's got that North Carolina
Yeah.
accent. And I was like, oh my gosh, you play with the Hinsons. And man, he rocked my world.
Yeah.
Because at that point I was playing some steel guitar and I was playing some electric guitar. And after hearing Steve, because he had effects and
Yeah.
nobody in Middletown, Ohio that I knew of, in our world had any kind of effects
Just
whatsoever.
play
He just
straight
put
through the amp, huh?
straight through the amp.
A
Your
little
effects are
reverb, a little
probably,
tremolo.
yeah.
That's about all you had.
Oh, yeah. And he had a MXR digital delay rack mount. And this would have been probably 79.
79. Yeah, I
Yeah,
know exactly because first time I saw him was in 79 in Shreveport, Louisiana. He just come with them. So it's probably about
right.
that same time. Yeah.
Yeah. and he just had a different approach. He was so smooth, and his tone was just immaculate. I mean,
Yeah.
he had a chorus effect
Hmm.
that I'd never heard before, and then he had a echoplex that he used for long echo,
Yeah.
that just fattened his tone up. And he had a Dynacomp, an MXR Dynacomp. I remember that.
Now, did he
And
play? Was he playing a Les Paul back
at
then?
that point, he was playing an artist, Ibanez artist.
Okay.
It was a yeah Sunburst
It looked kind of like a
Ibanez
Les
artist.
Paul. It wasn't. It
Yeah,
wasn't like a
it was a
Strat or
double
anything.
cutaway though. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and he had a polytone amp, just a little jazz kind of amp. But man, it really did. It just rocked my world. I was like, okay, well, I can put the steel up now. I know what I want to do,
Yeah.
and I'm still a fan of Steve Dixon. He went on to play with T.G. Shepherd and
Yeah. He and
he
Greg Taylor, the bass player for the Hinsons, they kind of left at the same time and went to TG, didn't they?
well, now that I think about it, I think he actually went. Now this could have been after T.G. Um, he went and played for the Goads up in Ohio.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because Ziggy Anthony Johnson, Dirk Johnson's brother, was with him at the same time. But
You know the Goats because aren't they from Ohio
I
originally?
think
Yeah.
Piqua. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
they were big in the Amway functions
Yeah.
and stuff. They would
Exactly.
go out and do that. Yeah, they were they were an awesome group, good people.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, Steve, he rocked my world. He just such an influence, and I think he lives over in the Carolinas now. He's got a beautiful wife over there, and they lead praise and worship at. I think it's probably a mega church, but
That's cool, man.
he's still doing it. Yeah.
So tell us about when you got the call to come. Did you just try out, or did they just hire you? Who called you
The
and asked you
the
to come?
Hinsons.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny uh, how I got there. There's a whole story how I got with Gold City, but I was actually playing with Gold City.
I forgot
Uh,
about that. I
yeah,
forgot that. Yeah, that's right.
yeah. I actually was playing with Lori Sykes, Lori Mullins back then, her
Yeah.
family back in '82, and she was actually a drummer, a great drummer. That little band. I mean, we had a little four-piece band. We had so much fun, but we played with the Singing Americans, and Ivan Parker was with the Singing Americans,
Yeah.
and
Remember that?
we played this little gymnasium. And I remember him coming up to me, and he said, "Man, I really like your playing." He said, "I'm fixing to go with this brand new group called Gold City, and they've got a song on the chart right now. Robo White, I think it might have been, as a
Yeah.
live kind of thing."
Yeah.
And I'd heard that, and I was like, "Oh wow, yeah, that might be something I'd be interested in doing." Well, he winded up calling. Well, actually, Gary Jones. He gave Gary Jones my
Yeah.
number, and so anyway, I'm with Gold City and Rodney Lasham. You remember Rodney?
I do. I do.
Yeah, great piano player.
Yeah.
Well, he was with Gold City, but Gary Jones had actually come back with Gold City,
Okay.
and he was playing piano, and Rodney was just sort of working in the office at that point. He got the call to go do the Henson thing,
Ah.
and I remember we all lived in a little. We called it the chicken coop. The Floyd, I forget his last name, but the guy that actually owned Gold City, he had a chicken farm, and the band got to stay on this. It was basically a trailer with some rooms added to it. But oh
Yeah.
my gosh, you'd pull up in the yard, and flies, you couldn't hardly see for the flies. It was awful.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, it was great. We were playing
Man, when
music.
you're
Come on.
when you're young and you don't have responsibilities, you'll just go play anyway with anybody just to get that opportunity.
Oh, that's it. So Rodney had actually got the call to go play for the Hinsons. I think Dirk had left.
Yeah.
And so Rodney is leaving. We just happened to be home that week, and Rodney is packing up, and he's saying his goodbyes and everything. And I'm like, yeah, man, I hope you have an awesome time. That's always been a group I'd love to play for. But I never really said, if they ever want anybody. And he left, and I remember thinking, man, I just should have told him. And about that time, the door opened back up. He had forgotten something. And I said, Rodney, I should have told you this, but man, if they ever it's always been my dream to play for the Hinsons. You know, I've always loved the band,
Yeah.
Kenny, all of them.
Oh yeah.
And he said, "Yeah, I'll do that." And so about 3 months later, me and the steel player Daryl LaCroix that played with Gold City at that
Right.
time, we both we're at this church. I remember, I think it was Indiana. We're at this church, and somebody comes up on the bus and says, "There's a Kelly back and Daryl LaCroix. You have a phone call." Oh no, you know, this might be my mom. Something's happened,
Yeah.
you know, because who knew we were there, you
Yeah.
know? So I remember picking up the phone, and he goes, "Kelly?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Hey, this is Kenny Henson." And then just, I don't remember anything after that. It
The
was
heart
like,
starts beating fast.
yeah, oh my gosh.
Oh
And
boy.
so me and, long story short, too late, right? But me and Daryl winded up driving up to Nashville, and there's a little studio in Hendersonville, and it's been a studio until about 2 years ago, and it's called Beaverwood,
Yeah.
and that's where me and Daryl both auditioned. And man, I'll tell you, a scary moment for me there. We had auditioned, and you know, I knew all the stuff. I loved them.
Oh yeah.
I could play it in my sleep.
Yeah.
Well, after the audition was over, Kenny goes, "Daryl, come out here. I want to talk to you." And so they went outside, and I'm like, "Oh no."
Oh man. They're gonna
Daryl
take
got the
steel and
job,
not
but
leave.
yeah. And so he come back in, and he stood around, talked around, and he said, "Kelly, come out here. I want to talk to you." I'm on it. That's my Siri. Sorry.
All right.
Said, "Kelly, come out here. I want to talk to you." And I was like, "Oh, I hope this is good." And he said, "You know, if my accountant can make it work, I want both of you."
Wow.
And I remember, and this is how I felt. I don't think I actually did this, but Daryl, when everybody left, we were out behind Beaverwood Studios. And I remember Daryl jumping about 5 feet up in the air about 3 or 4 different times. And that's the way I felt.
Was
But
that his dream too, to play for the Hinsons? Was he?
well, see, Daryl come from a different background. He didn't really know anything about gospel music until he started playing with Gold City, actually.
Ah, okay.
And what's funny about Daryl, me and Scott Sanders were talking about this yesterday. We did another Hukabee thing, and
Yeah.
Scotty was on it with us. But we got talking about Daryl, and I thought Scotty had no idea, but Daryl, when he first went with Gold City, he pulled up in a dump truck, real long hair, no shirt on. I mean, he was from a place in Georgia, and he was the epitome of a redneck, you
Pretty
know, and he'll
rough,
tell
huh?
you that. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
But what's funny, though, once he got to Nashville, he met Tracy Richards, and you know, Tracy was Mr. GQ.
Oh yeah.
Well, Daryl turned into Mr. GQ, and he still is Mr. GQ.
So
You know,
Tracy molded him to what he became, huh?
oh, exactly.
Fixed him up
Yeah,
with a suit.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's
started
cool, man.
subscribing to GQ probably.
So you didn't go behind the building and jump like he did?
Yeah, I was back there with him, but I just remember Daryl jumping. I mean, higher than his car, you know, and I felt the same way. I don't know if I
Yeah.
jumped or not, but I was thrilled. It was like a dream come true.
So
You know,
how long were you actually with them?
I went with them in '84, and when they disbanded in '88.
88.
Yeah, so that's when
Yeah.
everything sort of come to a close, and we were all like, "Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
what are we going to do?" But you know, that it was God's timing. You know,
Yeah.
it was time to move on.
It
And
always is. You know, I'm huge, huge Kenny Henson fan. Still am. You know, I can listen to his music today and it sounds just as fresh as anything else out there. I mean, it's amazing. And what vocal control the guy had. Just
yeah,
amazing. Just amazing. I mean, I studied him. You probably did too in the band, like I did with him. I would listen to him as soon as I get home from school. I'd turn on the Hinsons and I'd let those records and stuff, tapes run over and over, and I'd go to sleep with them playing. You know, just totally idolized the man. You know, and finally got to know him. You know, when I got in the business, and we did concerts with y'all and Kenny and all them, and but you know, a lot of people, they see somebody on stage and they really don't know anything about them other than what they see on stage and what they hear on the records and stuff. What kind of guy was Kenny?
Man, it was wild because coming from where I came from, uh, the group owners of the groups that I was with, they let you know that they're the owners and the band and everybody else is sort of down here.
Bow down to me,
And
you know. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
um, Kenny and Ronnie and Yvonne, they were like, this is one big band. And we had an awesome time with them. And we never felt that at all as
So
far as,
they were just like one of the guys.
oh, yeah. And I had to say, talking about Kenny singing, I saw him one time. I don't know if he had the flu. I don't know what he had, but sneezing and coughing. And we got on stage. You could not
Couldn't
tell
tell it.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Where does that come from? That's a God given
Definitely.
gift right there. Yeah.
So
He was,
I was going to say, who was actually like when somebody had to make a major decision or, somebody got in trouble, who was it Ronnie was pretty much the guy that was kind of in charge at that point? Or
it's funny when you say that, when somebody got in trouble, I don't ever remember. I know it's crazy, but I don't really ever, there was some stuff that went on, these little vibes between the brothers,
yeah,
and
of course.
Bo,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and there was some stuff, but it was more vibes, and there's some stuff that probably shouldn't
Can't
talk
talk
about.
about.
That's it wasn't between the brothers.
Yeah.
Just put it that way. But I never really seen a lot where, hey, this is happening. This, Ronnie was always. This is so funny. Ronnie was always scared that we were too loud, and there was this
Oh,
little
really?
between him and Kenny, because
Uh-huh.
after we'd always start with our 3 or 4 songs, and Ronnie would say, how many's never heard the Hinsons? And they'd be a bunch of people, and he'd go, well, where you been? We've already done 4 songs,
Oh, yeah.
And then his second question was, how many think it's too loud?
Oh, you never say that. You ought to know
Yeah.
better than that.
And then Kenny would go over and act like he's turning it down, and
Crank
he
it up.
he swore up and down several times he turned it up.
That is funny. Psychologically, people, you'll ask that question. Which is, you should never ask it because you're just opening it up to people. Yeah, it's too loud. Or somebody will say, it's not loud enough. And then you got people fussing and fighting with each other. And then you reach back there. Of course, we always had the mixer up on the stage. I ran the sound, from stage. Like that's what a lot of gospel groups do because they can't afford sound men. But back then they couldn't anyway. And you just reach over there and just touch it. And you say, how's that sound? Oh, that's much better, but you didn't even turn it down. That's just one of those psychological things. But Kenny was he pretty much in charge of the band?
Oh, yeah. He definitely was the guy that took care of the band. And if, it was awesome to see him sort of produce. I think he was the first guy that I actually felt encouragement, and a guy that knew how to produce, like the original Superman, that da 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 da.
Yeah.
Well, I remember when they had wrote that song, and I sort of just had a little bit of that. I'd heard something on the radio, I remember, before a rehearsal that we had, and it had that little 7-flat thing in it, and I was just goofing off with it. And I remember him going, hey, I love that. Won't you do this? Da, 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 da. And then when we go to the 4, do it again, and I was like, wow, that is so cool. So
it's really cool.
Yeah, he knew how to get the best out of musicians, and he knew how to pick them. I mean, some of my favorite players, Dirk Johnson, Gary Prim, Greg Taylor,
awesome. They always had an awesome band, man. The best band in Southern gospel music, of course. Scotty, he's played on 2 or 3 of my projects, and I asked him about the Hinsons and Kenny every once in a while. He said he learned so much from Kenny. Can you say that too?
Oh my gosh, yeah. He knew how to. If you were nervous at all, there's very few videos of us, but there's videos of us where I see Kenny turning around and talking to one of us. It would just put you at ease. I mean, he just knew how to do it, you
Yeah.
know. And I remember my very first concert with him. I can't tell you where it was, but I remember how nervous I was, and he just came walk back, and I don't even remember what he said, but it was like, ah,
Yeah.
thank you.
That's cool, man.
Yeah,
I don't
he's
I
a
don't know if
pro.
you I don't know if you remember this or not, but I think it was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and it was the Hinsons, Mid South, and I think Gold City. I think they were there too. And we were doing sound check or something, and you guys were on stage getting your sound check and everything, and it was a stage that was kind of like a almost like a flatbed. It was inside a hall, but it was kind of like a flatbed, and there was a curtain
Yep.
right behind the stage, and you were standing right up against the curtain.
Mm-hmm.
And on
Remember
the other
this.
side of the curtain was just a big drop off to the floor, about 6 feet.
Yep.
And I remember Kenny come running up on stage. He was just goofing off, and he jumped on you, and y'all fell off the back of the stage. You remember that?
Yeah. And he winded up hurting his back pretty bad. Uh,
Didn't
yeah,
didn't he
I
land
saw
on
him
you, or you
come.
landed on him, or what happened?
Well, I remember he sort of come running, and as he hit the steps, he actually tripped,
Oh,
and he was trying to stay up, and he just sort of come
just kind of fell
towards
into
me, and I
you.
saw him. Yeah, and I sort of went like this, and he was trying to hang on, and it pulled me over. And I remember I fell, just straddled him with my guitar and everything, you know,
Uh,
but he fell on his back,
yeah, that was
and
a concrete floor. Yeah.
yeah, I remember that very well.
Oh man, I'm surprised
Yeah,
your guitar didn't break.
yeah,
That was a
yeah.
6 foot drop off, man.
Yeah, I mean, I had the guitar on, and when I straddled him, the guitar was safe, you know. But poor
Yeah,
Kenny, man.
Kenny took the blow of it, huh?
Yeah, I remember that
Man.
vaguely, or no, not vaguely, but very well.
So you came after Larry Henson had left, like what, 2 years maybe after he had left?
I think so. When I came with him, Billy Ray Brown. I don't know if you remember Billy Ray Brown. He wasn't there maybe 6 months. Great singer. Then Larry came for 2 or 3 weeks
Oh, okay.
as Bo sort of made his way the
Well,
transition.
Eric came after Larry.
Right. Yeah, this is way after Eric.
Oh, okay.
This is after Eric. Remember when Eric had left?
Yes.
And this would have been, I guess, maybe 83,
Yeah.
somewhere in 83, 84.
Yeah.
And Billy Ray Brown came right after Eric did.
I
And
never heard
I think,
him.
yeah, he was a great singer. I don't know what happened, why he left. I really
Man,
don't.
I always dreamed that I would get a call, right when, Eric left and all that. And I was dreaming, man, I wish they'd call me, and I'd love to sing with Kenny. But,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
that would have been I don't know if I'd have taken it or not, because we were just starting to get
Oh, yeah. You all
popular with
had,
Mid South and all that. So, but that
yeah.
would have been pretty awesome to at least
Yeah.
been considered.
Yeah, or you could have went and done the 2 weeks that Larry did, you
Well,
know,
yeah,
blah blah.
yeah,
Just to say you'd sang with. I mean, I never got to
exactly.
sing with Kenny. If
Oh
I was a
man,
singer, that would have been high on my list. Believe me,
definitely. He
the
he
top.
definitely left this world way too soon.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
did.
man, we sure do miss him.
25 years
But
ago. Wow.
but Larry, Larry just passed away just 2 or 3 days ago, and wow, I remember the first time I saw them. This little short, black-haired guy up there, and he, I don't know if he was an Elvis fan or what it was, but man, he he had all the Elvis moves going on up there, man.
I loved it.
But man, what a
Yeah,
loss.
At Memorial Hall, I remember that's the one thing I remember about Larry. He would come out there and he'd do that arm and those big endings,
And
and
do the leg,
he was. Oh yeah,
hold the
he was
microphone
such a
way down,
pro.
and
Oh yeah,
do those
man, what
endings,
a
man.
voice too. I mean,
Oh,
I listened to somebody had posted "Till the Land," which is one of my very favorite
yes,
songs,
yes.
and he sings the second verse. And man, at the end of that, he belts it. I
Oh
mean,
yeah. The
it's
till the
yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh, I'm getting goosebumps. See him?
Oh man. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Man, I was just, like you said, I was sold on them when I heard them. It was back in I think it was 76, first time I heard them. And my parents went to Dallas the quartet convention of all things was moved to Dallas 1 year. I don't know why they took it out there, just I guess to try something different. And they went. Of course, I grew up a big Happy Goodman family fan. I mean, I love the Goodmans, Johnny Cook, and all them. And they went out there, and they came back, and they had bought all the records of the Hinsons, and I think my sister took a big tape recorder and she recorded, all the live stuff.
All right.
And I started listening to that. I was like, oh man, they're so much better than the Happy Goodmans. That's my Kenny. That voice, that country voice, just man, it got me. And I remember that, and I instantly became a fan. I think I saw him first time I saw him actually in person was probably '77 in Pine Bluff, Arkansas.
Oh wow!
And I never looked back after that.
Now, was Chris with them at that point? Or
Chris was singing. Yes. Yeah. Chris, Larry, Kenny, and Ronnie, and I think Gary Prim was playing then. And of course Tracy and Greg Taylor,
Yeah.
I think they had a steel player, Ira Leonard Johnson. Remember him?
Ira Johnson, yeah.
Yeah.
He played on was it On the Road?
On the Road, yeah. That live record, yeah.
I heard a story that piano that's on there, when they were trying to load it, that was on Briley Parkway, is what Ronnie told me. He said they were trying to load that piano, the moving company, and it fell and just splintered into matchsticks, basically.
Oh man, yeah. So when they when it came down, was it '87 when they finally decided to call it quits?
'88 was the last.
'88.
Yeah.
Well, I remember that. I was like, what? They can't quit? No. What actually led up to that? What happened?
I think there was some. I don't want to get too deep into stuff that's probably not been talked about.
Right.
But there was some different ideals, I think, where some of the brothers wanted things to go. I'm just assuming. But, and I know they too, financially, they had started leasing a bus weekly. Yeah. And I know they were pretty much, and this is what Kenny said when he came up on the bus and said, this is the State of the Union, and told us. His excuse was, we got a bad check written by this promoter that everybody knows. And we're just not going to be able to go on anymore from here on. And we knew there was some deeper things. And, and we were fixing to go on, we'd take a 2-week vacation every summer. We were fixing to go on that 2-week vacation. So we just finished a concert. I think it was with the Hemp Hills, and I forget who all. And so we get on the bus. We were going to go we did. We went to the steakhouse and we ate, and we were like, we're just going to get on the bus. It's 4 or 5 hours home. We'll just sleep, wake up, and we're on vacation. And we sort of waited on Kenny. I think he took about 20 extra minutes to get to the bus. I guess he was trying to get his thoughts together. Yeah. And I remember we're all sitting in the lounge, and he just stepped up and said, guys, this is the State of the Union. And between there and home, it was like, Ronnie, can we continue, without Kenny? And for just a split second, and then we all just laughed. It was like, are you kidding me? Yeah. I mean, Kenny is the Hinsons. I mean, it all was a unit. I mean, with Ronnie's writing, his MCing, with the band, it all was, but man, Kenny was a huge part of the Hinsons.
Definitely. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wasn't he also thinking about either becoming an evangelist, going out and preaching? Wasn't that kind of in his mind too? The Lord was dealing with him about that.
Yeah. I know the last year and a half, him and Yvonne both, they would have Bible studies in the back of the bus, and things got a lot more serious for him. And I think Kenny had turned down an offer, a country offer. And so it's like, okay, this is what I'm doing. And I'm so glad he did what he did. Thank the Lord.
Yeah. Going back to Larry, how well did you know Larry?
Well, as far as traveling with him, just those 2 or 3 weeks, I mean, it was like, here's another one of my heroes on the bus, and I was blown away with his singing. I was like, why
Yeah.
can't you just stay here? Do you not hear yourself with this?
Yeah.
You know, and then I think he had a church that he was pastor of,
It's
and was it
Arkansas.
Arkansas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little Rock area. Yeah.
And so I didn't really have any, connection there. And then here several years ago, well, actually, when Rob Tripp first started his church,
Mm-hmm.
Larry started coming there for a while, and I got to hang out with him a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I think they started their own church. Larry and them did.
Yeah.
And then he went back out on the road. In the last 2 or 3 years, I had really gotten to know him better than I ever had.
Yeah.
And it was just from hanging with him at the church, and
Yeah.
talking with him. And, he was always impersonating somebody, Nelson.
Yeah.
Did you ever see him? I'm sure you did.
Oh, yeah.
Nelson. Man,
Oh, yeah.
one of my favorite memories. The Hinsons had already disbanded, and Dirk Johnson was producing One More Hallelujah record. So we're at Reflections, and I'm sitting playing my guitar, just warming up, getting sounds and stuff. And that door flies open, and here comes Larry, and Larry's doing Nelson, with, pulling on his leg and, his shoulder and everything. And he sounds exactly like, Kelly, how you doing there, son? Good to see you. And I'm just dying laughing. Well, 5 feet behind him was Kenny. He was doing Nelson. Hey, Kelly, how you doing? Good to see you there. Put his hand out. 5 feet behind him was Nelson.
Oh,
and it was the same thing. It was like, wow.
Did he know that they were making fun of him?
Oh, no. I don't think so.
That's great. So you played on the last project they did then?
It was at the one more Hallelujah.
More
I guess
Hallelujah.
it was. Yeah.
What a great CD, man.
Yeah, another funny thing about that I remember too is we had a whole day booked, and they come in and they're like, "Well, I think we have 2, maybe 3 songs. We'll just have to write them." And so they went back in that B room there at Reflections, and they would be back there for an hour or so and come back out, and they'd have another song.
Man. That's when you know they're really a songwriter, when they can do stuff like that. That just never happened with me. I had to really think real hard. Now, what word rhymes with this? And, just.
Yeah.
And I tried
to make
We should
write together then. We could write one every 2 or 3 years, I bet.
Yeah, it'd take about that long to get it done if it was me on part of the writer. But, man, these are awesome stories. And I'm sure a lot of people out there listening to this are loving it too. If they're a Henson fan, they got to be loving this. So when the Hinsons disbanded, what did you do after that?
Well, I actually started pursuing, I thought, well, maybe I need to get a country job, at this point.
Yeah.
I was thinking that.
To make a living.
Yeah. And I didn't have very many bills. I wasn't married.
Yeah.
I think my total bills per month were probably $500 or $600, for everything.
Don't you wish you could go back to that time again?
Oh, right, yeah.
Man.
Me and Rodney Lasham we were the only ones that sort of stayed. Carrie had moved back to Dallas.
Yeah.
And we did have unemployment coming in, so that kept me afloat. And then I commuted back and forth. There's a guy named Mark Carmen that was director of operations of Cashbox, and he winded up starting a record company, and he actually started producing a lot of records, and Dirk Johnson really helped me out a lot. He introduced me to Mark, and I got to play with Pig Robbins and Jerry Croon and all those huge names back then, and just heroes. And thanks to Dirk, he was really in my corner.
That's cool.
And so
I
sort of did.
Speaking of Dirk, the very first record I did with Mid-South Boys Quartet back in '83, of course, Dirk hadn't been with the Hinsons very long at that point. We just fell in love with his style of piano. And so I know he had played on what was it called?
Hinsons?
With 2 winning hands. Hinsons, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was Hinsons.
Yeah, 2 winning hands, Call Me Gone, and all that,
Yeah.
It's like, so we went in the studio to record our record. I think Robbie McGee had kind of got to know Dirk, and so we called. Eddie Crook was playing on everybody's stuff back then. He was doing all the piano work back then.
Right.
So Robbie asked him if we could get this guy that plays with the Hinsons to play on the record. He's like, I don't know, So he didn't really know Dirk back then.
Right.
So he said, well, we'll try him and see how it sounds. So, so Robbie called Dirk and asked him if he could come play on it. Yeah, he did. Man, he tore it up. And from that point on, Eddie started using him a lot after that.
Wow.
So
and that's sort of where it started.
I don't know if we had anything to do with him really starting studio stuff, because he played on the Hinsons record.
Right. Yeah.
That. So I don't know if I'm sure we may have helped him a little bit because he was doing a lot of work for Eddie back then. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was a huge account back in the day.
It was.
I remember when I first started doing sessions, I mean, Eddie, he would hand out these little lists of, 30 sessions within the next, and that was 40 days or something.
Back in the day when Jimmy Tarbutton was doing all the engineering, and we joke about it now. It's like he's sitting in there just like a zombie, just one after the other. Just people it's like a rotating door. People come in recording, and as soon as they get through recording, he starts mixing.
Right?
Like,
yeah.
He never stopped.
Yeah, it was a machine, and Dave Wilcox was part of that whole organization too. They had it going on. I mean, they fed my family for a while. That was a great account,
So you got started in studio work then after the Hinsons.
Right. Yeah, I actually, I after the unemployment ran out, my studio work hadn't really picked up, and I mean enough to pay for everything, and the whole $500-600 a month budget. Yeah. But so I actually went and Rodney Lasham went and played with the Perrys, and he had been there, I guess, 6 or 8 months, and he called me, and I went down and actually commuted back and forth.
Okay.
And I got to go to the Bahamas, and things just got a little busier for me in the studio, and I was commuting back and forth, that drive, and and I remember the last weekend they had some issues with a bus, and we were in a little van, me and 2 of the band members, and and I was like,
they probably said, boys, we can't get paid this week. Checks in the mail.
Right.
Oh yeah, I've been there and done that many times, man.
Yeah. So when I left them, then I started doing studio work, and I had so much help. I mean, so many people in my corner, Dirk and Gary Prim and Bruce Watkins, Bobby All. Bobby All got me on the Gaither videos, Yeah. And I remember when that started, it was like, I go, how much does it pay? Had no idea what this really was going to mean.
Yeah.
To my career, and to get to know people and get to play on different things. So a lot of people helping.
I'm sure you can't even start listing the number of groups you've played for, records, and all that. It's been so many, and can always tell when I listen to a Southern or country gospel recording, I can always tell it's you. I can always, and I can always tell when it's Jeremy Metcalf. Y'all have 2 different kind of styles and 2 different sounds, but you have a distinct sound. What I'm trying to say, I always know it's you.
Yeah, I love Jeremy.
Yeah,
Brother Foley.
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to get Brother Foley.
I'm trying to get him on. He won't answer my messages when I text him, but
oh gosh,
it takes him about a week to get back to me. But anyway,
right, yeah,
he'll be hilarious if I get him on here.
Oh my gosh, I'll be watching. That'll go viral.
Oh man, so you've been working the Hukabee Show. How long has that been going on?
Well, we're on our 3rd season, believe it or not. I think it's.
You were actually the first staff band they hired, and you've been there ever since.
Yeah, it's been the same band ever since. Since the COVID-19 thing, we've scaled back a little. Not doing it at the theater now. We're doing it at a studio, and we all are in our little ISO booths. And the artists are, of course, not there. And Governor, he's in Florida. I don't think he's left his house in 6 or 7 weeks or
Wow.
something like that. And I think he has his grandkids there, and so they're
Uh-huh.
really hunkering down like we're supposed to.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So you've been
But
pretty much hunkered down at your place, just doing some overdubs and things there at your home studio. Is that your
yep.
home studio there behind you? I'm looking at.
That's it.
Man, that's a major looking studio you got there, man.
It does look pretty nice.
It does. I got
You
one
put that
behind
in
me too.
mine.
So I'm sitting in
Yeah,
mine. See.
yeah. That's not. That's super nice.
Yeah.
Boy, we got it going on with the studios.
Man, we do. We do. We ought to record something.
Yeah, definitely.
So something major happened in your life not too long ago. Can you tell us about that?
About my lovely wife.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow, it's going on 6 years.
Has it been that
Just
long already?
yeah, it's just
Man, where's the time
amazing.
gone?
Oh,
My
I know. When
goodness.
you're having fun, it flies by.
Yeah,
But
it does.
what a blessing. I mean, I was telling you earlier, she's a real deal. She,
Yeah.
Sarah Delane,
Yep.
and she does mission work. And for our first year anniversary, I wrote her a song, and I don't sing, but
Can
there
you
is a
sing a little bit
tuner.
of it for us?
Yeah. Oh, okay. You ready? Give me an
Yeah.
F sharp.
Mm.
Yeah. But I wrote her a song called "You're the Real Deal, Baby," and
Hey, was that
she
F sharp
really
I
is.
just hit?
Let me call Dirk.
Can you sing
So
a little
she's
bit of it for us, or
amazing.
just tell us a line or two of it? You don't have to sing it. Just tell
Oh
us.
my gosh.
Let's hear it,
Put
man.
me on the spot. I'd have to look at the lyrics.
Has it been recorded
So,
by anybody?
I did it. I did. I had let's see who Scott Williamson mixed it for me, and
Man, I'd love to hear it.
yeah, I'll have to get it to you.
Yeah.
It ought to be a hit.
Is it out on iTunes or anything?
No,
Oh,
it
man.
was just it was especially for her. But
That's awesome.
it's a pretty good little production,
Yeah.
And
And we're
I
talking
got some
about
sugar.
Sarah Delane,
Yeah.
which she used to be a pastor on the staff of a church I went to. She was the worship pastor at Cornerstone. Cornerstone's been mentioned in almost every video that I've done because I got
Really?
all my connections are Cornerstone people and everything, ex-Cornerstone people. And I used to call her Pastor Sarah all the time. She was Pastor Sarah.
Well, we go out to eat in Hendersonville or Madison or anywhere, and every other time there's somebody, Pastor Sarah, it's so good to see you. So I had to get used to that. It's awesome. People love her.
They loved her there. They still, a lot of people, they hated to see her go. Back then, she was kind of my boss back then.
Right. Yeah.
And she was a singer and traveled with Nancy Harmon and did all the Gaither stuff and did stuff on her own. So we were like fellow musician artists, But when she came to Cornerstone to be the worship pastor, she turned into a boss.
All right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But she was always good to me. She was kind of the go-between between me and Pastor Davis back then.
Right.
And he would tell her what he didn't like about something that I did, or he'd tell her something he really liked what I did, and she would be the one to tell me, relate the message to me. So, but she was really good, and I know she learned a lot from those days. I think that was her first pastor job, I think.
I think so too.
But man, I miss her a lot, really do. And I can't wait to get her on here and tell her story.
She said she'd love to do it.
She's been around. She has been around.
I actually played on her first record.
Did you
back
really?
In 1996.
And had no idea she'd be your future wife.
Oh, I had no idea. It's funny, when we moved into this house, I started going through my old books. I've got a bunch of date books, that date back, and we found where we first met, which I was married, and had kids back then.
Yeah.
Well, I still have the kids.
But, yeah.
But, and I just remember thinking, what a great singer, a beautiful lady, good for her.
Yeah.
But we found it in my date book, 1996.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely married up,
What do you mean?
I
definitely did. Yes, I do. Believe me.
And when I found out that you guys are going to get married or even dating, I was like, Kelly back? you know.
Yeah.
Nothing against you, you know. I just
Yeah.
never
Well,
dreamed that she would go for a musician, you know. I thought
yeah.
she'd marry some evangelist, you know, out there on the mission field or something, you know. But
Well, she said she'd never marry a pastor, and then
there you go.
the church I used to go to, I was actually a pastor at there for a while, and
You
so
didn't tell her, did you?
no, this is after we were married. We both were
Oh, you finally
pastors
confessed,
there.
huh? Okay.
Yeah.
Afterwards.
Yeah.
That's cool,
Yeah.
man. Man, this has been awesome.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you doing this. And I
Love your
know,
show. I've been watching some of them, and man, it's so interesting. You're great. I mean, I work for one of the best interviewers in the world, I believe. Huckabee, and man, you've got some skills. I'm telling
well,
you,
man, I
you just
appreciate
make me
that.
feel comfortable, and it looks like you make everybody feel comfortable. This is a great show.
Well, I
Keep up
really
the good work.
appreciate it. And people like you is what's making it good. It's not me for sure, but we
Yeah.
just, we love hearing the stories, you know, from people that have been there and done that. And I wanted to encourage, you know, other listeners or other watchers out there that maybe there's some guy out there that wants to get in the music business, that plays guitar, and they've looked up to you over the years. And what kind of advice do you have for somebody like that?
Well, I do have some videos on YouTube you can go to, but my advice, especially if you're a young person, uh, don't chase the money. I
Right.
mean, if you really want to do this, like we were talking about earlier, my first real paying job was $20 a show,
That was
but
mine
that
too.
led
That was mine too.
really,
Did you play for Mid South?
yeah.
That's what I made too.
But it led me, it kept
Yeah.
because I wasn't playing for the money. Yeah, I got a little spending money where I can buy Coke here and there,
Yeah.
and this was 1982. But yeah, don't follow the money. Just follow your dreams and try to keep always learning. I would
Yeah.
definitely recommend that. I'm always trying to find something. If it's a new amp, if it's something that's going to
Hmm.
make me want to practice, and there's so many great YouTube guys on now that
Oh yeah.
a lot of young kids. Mateus Asato, the guy that plays with Tori Kelly, man,
Yeah.
just from Brazil. He's just amazing. The technique, and that's what's hard to find. Somebody is just totally different, you
Right.
know. But yeah, I would just don't worry about the money and just follow your dream and put the Lord first. Oh my gosh,
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
definitely
Well,
do
if you're
that.
going to
And
play, if you want to play in a gospel group, there is no money.
we drained them dry with that $20 a show.
Man, I'm telling you, I really did, man. When I joined in December of 82, they told me, we'll pay you, because they didn't have any money back then, obviously. We'll give you $20 a date. And I said, I'll take it, because I wanted it so bad, you know.
Oh yeah.
And I did it, man. If we played 2 dates that weekend, that's $40. Three,
Oh
we
yeah.
did 3, I made 60, man. I was in heaven.
Yeah.
$60 a week. But I loved what I was doing.
Yes, sir. Man, I tell you another quick story. Speaking of the $20 a show, the group that I was with, we would buy groceries and just sort of split it up at the end of the week. So you had a little money at the
Yeah.
end of the week. But I remember we were in Tucklin, Virginia, and we made $20 a show, and it turned into a 2-week revival.
Ooh, man.
So me and the bass player, I remember we're going, man, what are we going to do with all this money? And after about the third night, I remember uh, the guy that owned the group had a little meeting with us, and he was like, guys, Ben's, we're here. You're not have to loading in. None of that kind. We're going to have to cut your pay to $10.
Wow.
and, and he said, now, or I can pay you the 20 and you can just leave when we get back home. He said that. But what was crazy at the end of the thing that we did, the revival, the pastor got up and took up an offering for the band, and it really did make up for it. I think my part of the offering was like $150, and that was
Whoa, man.
a ton of money back then.
He took it up for the band, just the band, huh?
Yeah. I don't know
Wow.
how he knew, or I don't know.
You know, you at the very beginning of this interview, when we talked about how you got started, you mentioned Blaze, Kentucky.
Oh yeah.
I've been to that church.
Ernest Carter's church, or I know it
Yes.
used to be.
Well,
Really?
yeah.
Wow.
And to make a long story short, I got to tell this because you brought up Blaze, Kentucky. You know, Donnie got us in there. Donnie Lewis,
Oh, okay.
and
They didn't have
just a little
electricity yet.
country church, you know, a little country church. And we got there. It's probably 12 or 1 o'clock because they wanted us to come eat lunch with them before, you know, everything got going. So we got in the back of a pickup and they took us way down in the holler. And there was a bunch of guys down there playing bluegrass, which was pretty cool. I thought, you know, this is the Darlings down here from the Andy Griffith Show. It was really cool.
Right.
So after they played a while, we went back up to the church and set up. And we're sitting in the bus, you know, right before it's getting ready to start. And the pastor knocks on the bus door. And we open the door, and I kid you not, the pastor had on a canary yellow leisure suit and a red derby hat.
And what year was this?
This would have been 80.
Oh my gosh. 80s.
7 or
Leisure
88,
suits.
something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Canary.
So he comes in there and prays with us, you know, and then we go in, and the church is just packed, and all of our stuff sitting up on stage. The guitars are sitting on the stands, and he said, "All right, come on, let's sing a couple of songs before these boys get up here." And so, I mean, half the church gets up and gets on stage. You remember those days when everybody get up there and sing, and there was
Oh, yeah.
about 10 large women on the stage, and they started out with "Go down to the river." Remember, ain't no grave gonna hold my body down. When they cut
yeah.
in on the chorus, the whole place started shouting. You know
And
what I'm talking about? Shouting.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking
Oh
about.
yeah.
Cutting rugs, and I mean, those women were dancing around mine and Joe's guitars, and I was so scared they were going to fall and break one of them. So Joe and I eased our way up to the stage while they were singing, and we got our guitars off the stage. And this went on for about 30 minutes, and the people were just shouting and just having a good time. Well, finally, when they finished, he called us up. Of course, we were just country gospel. We weren't a shouting kind of like the Hinsons, you know. They had those, "Won't that be a hallelujah?" They had those kind of songs,
right,
and
yeah.
people were just dancing all over the place and shouting. We didn't have those kind of songs. So we got up there and started singing. Everybody just kind of sitting there. You know, there wasn't much going on. And so we did our thing. We took a break. They're going to take up an offering. So the pastor gets up. "All right, I want to take these boys up a good offering. They came all the way from Arkansas to be with us tonight." And they brought out a 55-gallon barrel and set it out right in front of us on the floor, in front of the stage. "All right, I want everybody to come by this thing and throw some money in this barrel. We're going to give them a good offering tonight." So we're up there playing for the offering, and people are filing by. Most of them are just going like that, not dropping anything in the barrel.
Oh my gosh.
So when they get through with it, they take the barrel out
no.
to the back room, and we're singing another song, and they bring it back out, and somebody hands the pastor a note, and we get through with that song. He hang on, boys. He stops us. He said, "I just want you folks to know that we took up the best offering we've ever taken up for anybody in this church. We gave these boys $55. And the whole church is like, "Yeah, praise the Lord." We're all looking at each other like, "Man, it cost us more than that in fuel just to get up here."
All the way from Arkansas. Wow.
Oh man, it was like going back in time. The funniest thing of this whole night was, I hope I don't offend anybody because I know there's some Pentecostal people out there, and you know, I grew up Pentecostal too, and you did too.
Yeah.
And we've seen it all. We've seen the shouting and stuff. But the pastor wanted to know if anybody needed prayer. So a bunch of people were up there on the stage, and he had you seen those little buckets at Logan's Roadhouse? It's got the peanuts in them.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He had one of those size buckets, and it was full of olive oil.
Oh,
And he was dipping in there in that thing and anointing people on their heads. And of course, they were falling out in the spirit. And when he looked around and saw there was nobody else to anoint and pray for, he did himself, and he fell out.
Wow. No, I'm not. I've seen a lot of stuff, but I've not seen that. And
I
he
have
went out.
never, I
He
haven't
anointed
either.
himself and went out.
He anointed himself and fell out in the spirit.
Wow. I've seen running across pews. I've seen jumping in baptistries.
Oh yeah.
I've seen all kinds of stuff, but I've not seen anoint himself and fall out.
But the worst part, and I have to blame Don. We got mad at Donnie because of this, but because he set this thing up. I think his
Yeah,
cousin
it
went
probably
there or
left
something.
him there. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
After church, they had a hamburger stand outside. They were making hamburgers and French fries, and man, I was so hungry by that point. It was like 10 o'clock at night. We finally got finished with that service. So I'm out there, and man, I ordered 2 hamburgers, 2 orders of fries, and a drink. And when she handed them to me, she said, "That'll be $10." And I'm thinking, we have to pay for it. We're the guest singers here. We still got to pay for our food. Only made $55 in the
no.
offering. You want me to give you
Right,
back
yeah.
$10? But
Oh,
man,
that's
so that's that
awesome.
same place, Blaze, Kentucky.
Blaze, Kentucky. Yeah.
Yeah, man, we both
Yep.
got a lot of history right there for sure.
Wow. Yeah. Every time I went there, I remember something that happened. You know.
Yeah. We've all got funny road stories. What's the funniest one that kind of stands out to you?
The funniest road story. Wow, there's just so many.
No.
I mean, traveling with the Hinsons, it's like me reading a joke book and saying, "What's the funniest joke in this joke book?" There's just so much stuff. You know, and you might have heard this story, but back in the '80s, there was a hostage situation that had just happened. This I can't remember the year, 87, 88, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And so that was on everybody's mind. And so the weekend that we decide we're going to go out, Ronnie Henson decides to bring a pellet gun with him. I'd never seen the pellet gun before, never seen it after. So he brings, for some reason, this weekend, he brings a pellet gun with him and puts it up, you know, where you put the bread and stuff in the lounge. And so we just finished up our Saturday night concert, and Harold, their brother, pulls the bus into a truck stop. He's filling up, and Carrie Hukabee, he's out there talking to Harold. Well, Ronnie goes over there with that pellet gun and puts it to Carrie's head and grabs him by the shoulder and leads him into the bus. And Harold's looking around going, "Oh my gosh." Everybody's just looking like, "Oh my gosh." So Harold doesn't even finish topping off the fuel. He just says, "We need to get out of here." So we take off, and about 10 miles up the road, we're on this little highway. We come over this hill, and it's dark, and so you can see lights flashing. We're like, "What in the world is going on?" Come over the hill, and there's police officers with their cars roadblocked with shotguns.
Oh,
and
man.
I heard Ronnie tell this the other day. I don't remember this, but he said there was actually a helicopter too. So he, you know, we stop, of course, and one of the guys comes running up and tells Harold to get out of the bus, and he's like, "What's going on?" He said, "Well, we heard there's a hostage situation. We heard y'all had a hostage on here." And Ronnie steps out and says, "Oh no, man, that was just a pellet gun." And the guy looks back, "Oh, never mind. It's just a pellet gun." And he comes up and Ronnie shows it to him. How did Ronnie get by with that? They would have put me under the jail. But
yeah, really.
that's one of the funniest
ones.
Man. I mean, you know, and the stuff Ronnie and everybody did. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
It really does need to be a book.
We could all write books. I'm telling you, man. Just crazy stuff. Man, this has been awesome. I appreciate you doing this. And man.
Yes, sir.
Just love it. Love it hearing those old stories, man. Really do.
Yeah.
Appreciate you taking.
Doesn't seem like that long time. That long ago.
It don't.
Once you get talking about it, but gosh, it's been a while.
It's been a while. It's been a while. Hey, Kelly, thank you so much. And
thank you, Bobby.
God bless you, and just keep on playing that guitar.